Good evening and salutations, my J fans. Dante and Lulu. Dante wants Lulu to drop the article, the adoption article, saying that, you know what, listen, you already knocked it out the park with the whole Drew thing, and seeing how it's upsetting Brooklyn and Chase, you know, could you drop the could you drop the story? And she's like, no. Why should I have to sit there and practically put, change the stuff that I'm doing in my career just for her? And I 100% agree with that. It's like, no, I'm not dealing with her and her sensitive feelings. And Dante reminds her that they were in that very very similar situation, and basically seems to saying like emotions are high, and she's not really thinking. She's thinking pretty irrational. And I'm like, wait, so let me get this straight. We have to sit there and kind of move our shit around because of her irrational feelings? Oh, you must be out your goddamn mind. So again, she's like, no. And again, I 100% agree with that. It gets to a point where they're talking and he brings up that she's still in love with him. And she tells him, he tells her that, he got the information from Maxie because the minute that she woke up, as happy as he was to see her, she's been a pain in the ass. And so he needs some guidance or whatever, how to sit there and deal with her. He came up, he started talking about Sam and everything. And, this is the part where it starts to get kind of, well, let's be honest, it turns into a clusterfuck. Because while Lulu says that she is jealous of Sam and, them being a thing or whatever, and, granted, she wasn't sitting there asking him to, like, put his life on hold for her. Her feelings are her feelings and she can't change that. But then he also says that while he loves Sam, he's also in love with her. So I don't know how that's supposed to all go, but whatever. Honestly, you know what's going to wind up happening. They're eventually going to get back together. It's going to be messy and everything, but, it is what it is at this point. Personally, I always thought that that whole thing with Dante and Sam was just some weird shit. Okay, it was some weird shit. They said they shared a goddamn sibling. Okay, they shared a sibling, and granted, well, unfortunately, one of her children was stillborn or whatever with Sonny. You know, then there's that whole thing. Like it's just weird. I've never was for that, but whatever. Tomato, tomato. Um, while that's going on, Brooklyn pretty much kind of debriefs Tracy on her experience and the whole adoption thing and everything like that, with the tough decisions she had to make, Lois knowing, and helping out with the adoption thing. Now, at some point, when Lois comes into the room to talk to Tracy about the nurse's ball, Tracy's just like, "Nah, I got a question for you. Where's my grandson at?" Which is kind of out of pocket because it's like that's also her grandson. But, okay, Lulu. Like, okay, Tracy. Um, I wasn't really too interested in the whole Lucy thing with Lucy and Lois and Maxie talking about the nurses ball because I don't really care. But they did sit there and bring up Drew, and they brought up Carly, and they brought up the fact that maybe Carly would sit there and have a fit if Drew is there, because, at first, Lucy's like, oh, well, he's not invited. And Maxie's like, okay, but what about the money? Is the money still invited? Yeah, okay, then he's invited. Like that's not gonna, unless you want to sit there and get this man his refund back, his ass is going. Um Now speaking of Drew and Willow still sitting there being bitchy towards Drew, they do wind up doing the blood work and it does come back as ketamine in the system. Now from what Nina said, because Carly was like, why didn't you not use a stronger drug or whatever? And Nina Smith is saying ketamine is recreational. So it's not like, it will sit there and prove that, you may be using it from time to time or whatever. I don't know. The way she explained it, it made sense. So definitely sit there and watch that scene. But yeah, it comes back up as ketamine. But Willow is like, when Drew's like, see, I was, drugged or whatever. She doesn't seem like she really believes it that much. She's like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I'll see you at our house or whatever. And gave like the most pathetic kiss possible. So you pretty much kind of just lied to his face that you really didn't believe him, but you just want to pacify him or whatever. Because I saw in the previews, her asking, I think, Nina or somebody, like, what should she do or whatever. And I'm just like, this is the problem with Willow. I mean, there's a couple of problems here, but this is one of the problems with Willow. Woman, you are a grown ass woman with two goddamn kids, and you are constantly sitting there asking everybody else, what should I do? How should I think? It's just, and I know people will sit there and say, well, it's because she was in the car. No, because she's fucking stupid. Okay, I'm so sick and tired of people using that. Well, she just has cult brain. No, she's just stupid. I don't know what any of those men actually see in her, but yeah. Now, of course, there's a scene with Amy. I'm gonna be honest. If I never see Amy a day in my life, I don't think I'll be happier. I know that she's probably there for comic relief, or she's apparently there was another woman named Amy that was like the little gossip queen or whatever. But like, I don't care. Every scene with Amy is damn near just unwatchable because she gets up in Willa's face and she's all like, "Oh well, you're a very strong woman, and if you don't want to be with Drew or whatever," and Willa's pretty much just kind of just like, "What are you doing? Why are you like gossiping or whatever?" And she says no, and she kind of practically gives her the F off treatment. And there's a point where Amy's like, "So you're gonna leave him, right? You're not gonna still be with him?" Willa's like, "That's none of your business." Now, most people will sit there and be like, okay, fine. But seeing how a woman like Amy, who probably never had friends in high school because of her annoying ass personality, just blows past that answer or whatever and still starts to badger her. And it gets to a point where Willow just shuts that shit down like, yo, listen, you're a nurse. Why don't you practically go and do your job? Instead of getting my damn personal business. So she finally gets shut down. But before then, she's sitting there talking to some guy about, oh, well, maybe, she got an STI or whatever. And I'm just like, how you didn't get fired yet is just beyond me. It is truly beyond me. She's had one good story in her entire time of being on this show. And the only reason why she had that story was because the actress, Kristen Storms, was, I don't know, absent for, I have no idea what reason. But ever since then, she's just been hanging around, being the comic relief. So, yeah. At some point, Brooklyn comes to Maxie. And, they're talking for a little bit. Maxie's like, listen, this clearly seems like there's something wrong. Why don't you sit there and tell me? And Brooklyn's like, I don't know if I can. But then she's like, okay, but before I do that, you're going to have to pick a side. I'm sorry, what? And she's like, well, this is too personal, whatever. So, I know you're close to Lulu and everything like that. And Max is like, hey, listen, she's my best friend, but you're my best friend also. And she's like, yeah, but you're going to have to pick a side. And I'm just like, would a real friend really sit there and ask that question? Because I know if somebody sat there and told me to pick a side, well, I'm going to go and tell them to F themselves with a spiked dildo. But I just like, why would you even sit there and do that for? Like, how selfish is that? But I'm not surprised because that's just who she is. Um, Now, Carly's sitting there talking to Nina, and at first she comes in, she congratulates her and everything like that, but then she's like, "You're gonna have to move on this. You have to sit there and really spin it. You have to use the photos and use the video to sit there and try to prove that Drew can't be trusted and he's a bad man and he's bad for your daughter. You're gonna have to sit there and really sell it because the kind of money, whatever, may or may not be enough." And of course, Nina's also worried that it's going to come back to bite her in the ass. Now, it could come back and bite her in the ass in a couple of different ways. Um, and I'm looking forward to when it does. Um, what else? So, the whole bonfire thing gets started, and Danny practically drags Rocco to this whole thing. And, they're kind of hanging out a little bit. Danny decides he wants to sit there and get some drinks. Rocco's not really feeling it, but Danny's like, listen, you don't have to drink it. Just, hold it, just to, blend in or whatever. Anyway, while they're talking, they meet some girls or whatever, and they, start talking to them for a little bit. But then there's a point where I guess they're about to sit there and play volleyball at night. And it's like Rocco just cannot wait to sit there and get away from that whole thing. I don't know if he's just socially awkward, whatever it is. He's just like, nah, I'm good or whatever. And then he's like, yeah, all right. He's pretty much like, yo, listen, I'm gonna go and hang out with the hot girls. You can, like, I don't know, babysit my drink or whatever. So he leaves them. Some other kids or whatever come up to him and ask him to do something. I guess at some point he must have took a drink, and next thing you know, towards the end, he's pretty much unconscious. So when Liz finds out, she's gonna be pissed. She's going to be pissed. Um, Danny also walked in, and I'm gonna say I couldn't tell if he overheard Jocelyn and Vaughn's conversation, but he said he wasn't gonna say anything, and of course he was gonna say anything because that shouldn't have been there. So again, now you have this other side. You got the whole Vaughn and Jocelyn and Emma and Gio scene. There's a point where Vaughn is there, whatever, and they're going in the water. You have Emma, Gio, and Vaughn. And, he's there to sit there and be the distraction or whatever, right? So while Emma practically, strips down to her panty and bras or whatever and just goes in there, it gives Jocelyn enough time to copy the data from her, not hard drive or whatever. I don't know exactly what's it called, memory drive or whatever, but she's able to sit there and copy the data. She's able to sit there and corrupt Emma's file, but she didn't have enough time to put it back in her pocket. So now, when they get back, she has to figure out a way of how to get it back in her pocket or whatever, or somewhere by without her noticing. Problem's gonna be that even let's just sit there and say this is a success, right? And I feel like it will be. When they're about to sit there and turn in their papers, and her file's corrupted, and Jocelyn gets picked for this assignment, Emma's not an idiot, okay? Emma at some point is going to figure out that Jocelyn has something to do with it. Because, I mean, granted, yeah, anybody could have been there, whatever. But when you really sit there and you do the process of elimination, and you know that Jocelyn was also gunning for that spot as well as you, and your disc just, or your whatever, just happens to get corrupted, and the girl who just came in there is somehow able to um, catch up that fast to you and become the research assistant, oh, hell no. She's going to figure that shit out. She's going to figure it out. Now, after Jerusalem did talking to Willow, talks to Mac. He's like, yo, listen, I want to sit there and file a police report. And Mac is like, are you sure? Because, like, ketamine is legal, so, like, did you have too much or whatever? But then he asked him, he was like, who's the last person that you was with? And he remembers being with Tracy. Weird. He remembers being with Tracy, and I get that. But he has pictures of some girl that he didn't even know. Now, I get the unknown versus Tracy, who will obviously be a number one suspect. Problem is, he's going to sit there and waste his time on her when she didn't actually even do it. And the other person is damn near long gone. Also, Nina, when she was talking to Carly, she was like, she felt awful what she did to Willow, making her cry and everything like that. And she's like, if Willow finds out, my ass is cooked. And she practically was like, am I a bad person or whatever? And I'm like, well, you're not the devil, but like, and I understand that your heart might have been in the right place because you don't trust Drew, which, okay, let's just be honest. You snipped there shit talking this man like there was no tomorrow, but you had no problem snipped there having sex with him. Okay? So, like, make that shit make sense. You had no problem snipped there banging him, but you want to sit there and shit talking. On top of the fact that, again, she finds out what you did, she's going to want to have no, what I'm saying? She want to have no parts of you. And until Michael gets back, you're not going to really be able to see those grandkids. So, I'm going to blow up in the face, and it's going to be pretty epic. Anyway, I feel like that's pretty much about it. Now, I can't think of anything else, but if I missed anything, write in the comment section. I'll come to the live stream tonight. I'm going to be sitting there talking about all 5 soap operas. You know exactly what they are. And if you don't, just a little reminder, General Hospital, Days of Our Lives, Bold and Beautiful, Young and Restless, and Beyond the Gates. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and I will see you